Welcome to China Daily Speak Talk. I'm your host, Huang Lan. Today, we are very privileged to have invited Ambassador Zhou Wenzhong to join us in the interview. Ambassador Zhou is China's former ambassador to the United States and the Secretary General at Boao Forum for Asia, and the Vice President at China-U.S. People's Friendship Association. He is also a standing committee member of the CPPCC. Thank you for joining us, Ambassador Zhou. As the annual sessions of the National People's Congress and the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference are currently underway in China, many are very curious about the two political bodies. And could you please tell us what are the two sessions and what influence do they have?
The two organizations are two different bodies. NPC is the legislature of China, while CPPCC is a unique political consultative organization in China. However, they do work together. For instance, when NPC is in session, members of the CPPCC would be invited to their sessions. For instance, hearing the report delivered by Premier of the State Council, and also would be invited to the sessions where the Supreme Court and the Supreme Procuratorate deliver their report on their work. And the members of CPPCC would also be invited to make comments on all those reports. So that it means members of CPPCC are also part of the process of the running of the country. And as far as CPPCC is concerned, it was established in 1949. And between 1954 and 1949, CPPCC actually acted as a temporary legislature of China, because the first NPC was elected in 1954. So as a result, the CPPCC, adopted resolutions approving the national flag, national emblem, and so forth. So that's a brief history of CPPCC.
And how do the NPC and CPPCC cooperate with each other?
I think maybe I phrase it like this. They work together. NPC is a legislature in China. Obviously, it is a law-making body in China, while CPPCC is an organization where the different political parties, including the Communist Party and 8 other parties, and non-governmental organizations like the All China Women's Federation, All China Workers' Union, and so forth, have sent people to CPPCC. So they are all represented inside CPPCC. So every year they will have a session hand-in-hand, back-to-back with the NPC. As I said, the CPPCC members would be invited to make comments on the 3 reports delivered at the NPC annual session. So that is how members of CPPCC are involved in the running of the country. So the CPPCC have 3 functions. One is, of course, is political consultations, and the other is democratic supervision. And of course, the other is participation in the running of the country. So that is how CPPCC is a sort of working, functioning in China's political life.
And what are the Chinese people's main issues of concerns during this year's 2 sessions? And how do you think the 2 sessions will address and advise the public on those issues?
I think you can see that very clearly in the report delivered by the Premier yesterday. And I think there are 3 keywords. One is reform, the other is growth, and the third is welfare of the people. And then obviously reform is a key to the other 2 sort of concerns. Because without reform, without fresh progress in reform, you can't really have continued growth, more sustainable growth. So I think the Premier has spent a lot of time sort of spelling out what he plans to do, particularly in the key areas in terms of reform. So I think if we can make a good progress in all these areas of reform, I'm sure we'll be able to have the kind of growth which has been planned, that is 7.5% for the year. And with that kind of growth, then I think it will be able for the government to continue to improve the welfare of the people. So I think that's the three key words. And as I see, the Premier hopes through reform he'll be able to make sure that there will be continued growth. And with the kind of growth we have planned for this year, for the year 2012, we'll be able to do more in improving the life of the people.
And what is the CPPCC's role specifically in addressing or consulting those kind of issues of concerns?
As I said earlier, the CPPCC has more than 2,200 members. They are from all walks of life, representing all political parties, representing major non-governmental organizations. So when they meet, they hold discussions, sessions. They discuss, they express their views on the governing of the country and the functioning of the government. So they, in different ways, for instance, to make a proposal. That's a very important way for members of CPPCC to participate in the running of the country. For instance, for last year, from the March to last year to March this year, altogether, members of CPPCC came up with about 6,000 proposals. And those proposals will be sent to different government organizations, agencies, for them to consider it, for them to sort of investigate. And then they are obligated to come back to those who have made the proposal. So that's a very important, efficient way for members of CPPC to express their views, to raise their concerns, and to express their views with regard to a certain issue or a certain problem in China. And the CPPCC also would organize study missions for members of the Standing Committee. So last year altogether they organized 85 study missions. So they would go to a certain place of the country and to do a very thoroughgoing study of a certain issue. And then they would write a report, making suggestions, raising their concerns. And I think the report often receives a lot of attention from the highest level of the country.
And speaking of people's issues of concerns, social inequality is a rising issue now in China. And how do you expect the two sessions to address this specific issue?
I think the government has done a lot in addressing those concerns. For instance, now we have the minimum wage. We have to raise the minimum wage. And we have do away with agricultural tax. And now the education for the compulsory stage education is free. And so it's a long list. So if you read the report delivered by the Premier yesterday, you can see that the government has done a lot. But obviously, this is not enough. For instance, education, as far as education is concerned, the government has made it clear. The governments at all levels need to spend at least 4% of their income on education. I think the central government has maybe perhaps already done that, but as far as the government at the local levels, it still remains to be seen. So I think there is still a lot to be followed up.
And Ambassador Zhou, from what I heard, some people consider the CPPCC as of a group of celebrities who do not have real political powers. And as a CPPCC member, what do you think of this assessment, and why do you think people would think like this?
This is not true. I think maybe they do not really understand how CPPCC works. As I said earlier, CPPCC is a very important organization, which is also a unique organization. It has 9 committees, and one of them, of course, is Foreign Affairs Committee. So the standing member, it has a standing committee, and the standing committee has about 300 members. And the 300 members meet every 3 months. And then, as I said, they organize study missions. Last year, they organized 85 study missions, and they encourage members to write proposals. So all these are ways for them to participate in the governing of the country. So in that sense, members can be quite busy. If you know, they, of course, some of them still have their full-time job. So that means they need to do their full-time job, and in the meantime, they need to to spend some time for the CPPCC work. But I think most of members have done quite well. For instance, we have only 2,000 members, and last year, all together, there have been 6,000 proposals. So in average, every member of the CPPCC has written 3 proposals. Of course, some of them written much more than that. That's the average figure. So I think it's a very unique and organization of Chinese characteristics.
Will a CPPCC member receive answers on every proposal he or she writes or submitted to the Commission?
Yes, I think they are obligated. As I said, the government agencies, ministries are obligated to write back to the writers of the proposal. If they think they can't, for now they cannot do it, they need to give a reason.
So it's a lot of work every year.
Yeah. I have a book with me. This is a selection book about the handling of the proposals made in the year of 2011. And you can see from the book, every proposal, not every, most of the proposals are printed after they have received reply from relevant government agencies and ministries. And this book is also available. So you can buy it in the market. So in other words, people in the street can share with the proposal writers their concerns. And if they have opinions to make, of course, they can write to the proposal writers. So I think this is a very effective way for people to share the views of the members of CPPCC, and also a very effective way for all the members to understand how many proposals there have been and how the proposals were handled by different ministries and the relevant agencies. So this is a very effective way, as I see it.
And you also serve on the Commission of Foreign Affairs within CPPCC. Mm-hmm. Could you elaborate us with your own experience, like what role a CPPCC member plays on this commission, on this committee?
The Foreign Affairs Committee, is very active. I think they have done several things. One is that it's their responsibility to maintain contacts with foreign organizations in different countries, including different parties, legislatures, and so forth. They, from time to time, would send delegations to different countries for a visit. Last year, I joined chairman of the committee, Mr. Zhou Wenzhong, for a visit to the United States. And during the visit, we visited the Senate, had meetings with senators, and we also visited think tanks, exchanged views with them on issues of common concern, with the purpose of improving, common understanding. So that is one thing they are doing. The other thing is that they are engaged in the research and development of the notion of public diplomacy. They have published a magazine which has become quite popular in China. devoted to the subject of public diplomacy research. And the third thing is they also, from time to time, they would convene sessions for members of the committee to express their views on the international, global, and or regional situation. And as a result of these sessions, they will write a report to the leadership of the CPPCC, stating out their views on the current international situation for their information and reference. So I think this is what we have done in the year that has just passed.
And speaking of proposals, I'm also very curious about what's your proposal this year?
This year, I, together with a few other fellow members, we have made a proposal regarding the environmental protection, particularly about PM 2.5. And I think this is a big concern to people here and in other big cities. And the Premier yesterday talked about it. And so we hope it can be implemented in an efficient way.
How do you think, from your perspective, the problem of PM 2.5 can be solved?
In the proposal, first of all, I think we need to measure it. In other words, to include it in the list of those pollutants to be measured by the Environmental Protection Agency, so that people will know how serious the problem is. And secondly, we need to then, after we have come to some kind of conclusion with regard to the seriousness of the problem, then the government agencies and the municipalities, municipal agencies need to work together to figure out how to reduce the source of the pollutants. I think that's the emission of automobiles, emission of the coal burning and all these things. So I think after the measurement problem is resolved, then it's a responsibility of the government agencies to maybe they need to introduce some kind of legislations. Maybe they need to work out some kind of rules, regulations to make sure that it will improve.
And another question. At the end of the 2011, polling has been done jointly by China Daily and Horizon, a Chinese polling company, and China Daily and Gallup.
Yeah.
And the statistics show that 7%, more than 7% of Chinese people think that China will surpass the U.S. in the near future, and half of the American respondents think the same. So, what do you think of this polling results? Like China will surpass the U.S. as the biggest world economy in the near future.
In terms of what?
In terms of the economy.
GDP? Just GDP?
Yes.
And now this is, of course, a poll. And if China continues growth at this rate, by 2020, maybe China's GDP will be larger than that of the United States. But this is a sort of a situation where there are still uncertainties. I think the world economic situation is still very alarming because the growth in the United States is still very slow, and the situation in Europe is still not clear as to how they are going to resolve their debt problem. That is to say, the market is very soft in the West, and how it is going to affect China's export, that's something which remains to be seen. And in China, we are confronted with a lot of bottlenecks. Only by deepening reform can we make a new, fresh progress. So I think it will be quite optimistic to forecast that China will surpass the United States by 2020. Of course, as a Chinese, I would like to see that happening. But on the other hand, I think we need to work very hard indeed if we want to attain that goal. So but that is only the GDP, the gross GDP aggregate. In terms of quality of the economy, in quality of the performance of the economy, I think we still lag far behind. So I think we still need to have this in mind. That is to say, China has a long way to go. If we really want to attain our goal to be a medium-sized developed country by the middle of the century.
I also heard when you were China's ambassador to the United States, you went to almost every state in the U.S.
Not every state. I've been in the United States in and out for quite some time. So altogether maybe 16, 17 years. So in all these 16, 17 years, I've been to more than 40 states. There are still a few I have not been to.
Well, may I ask which state is your favorite?
Which I like the West Coast a lot. I think California is very beautiful. And the state of Washington, Oregon, all very unique in one way or the other.
Well, of all these years you've lived in the United States, do you have anything that leaves a very deep impression on you? I
think the roots are in the people, because deeply rooted. I think the relationship is deeply rooted, and the people are its roots. I wrote a book. It's a collection of 15 episodes during the 5 years of my ambassadorship. And I experienced two sort of disaster relief events. One is the Katrina in the United States, and the other is Wenzhong earthquake in China. So through the relief work of the two disasters, I think you can see people here and the people in the United States are very friendly with one another. And when the crisis hits, the other country and the people of another country would very enthusiastically reach out and would like to do whatever they want to be of help to them.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ambassador.
My pleasure.